Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Hema Ramkisoon, and this is the Morning Brew. And joining us on set, we have Kerensa Joshua, a.k.a. Terry Fabulous on Facebook, was involved in a terrible vehicular accident some years ago. And as a result of that accident, she's been paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair. She's been dealing with the Ministry of Social Welfare, and it's a norm with everything that runs in the system by the public service and the government agencies in this country. They've been giving her endless runaround. No pun intended with the young lady's situation. Just yesterday, she posted a status saying that the social worker she's been dealing with for the last 3 years has suddenly lost her file and is now claiming that she, the victim, the one that we're supposed to be helping in this situation, never submitted any paperwork, and that the other social worker would come to visit her in a couple days' time. Well, a couple days has passed. Now, we can go through the entire situation and all that has happened, looking at the history of this young woman who is now fighting to change the system, fighting to ensure that she doesn't fall through the cracks, but also she's hoping to use her story to highlight other possible similar situations which are occurring in our country. Kerensa, good morning. How are you?
Morning. Nice to see you.
Qualified but disqualified.
Agreed.
What was your life like before the accident?
I was a human resource and an administrative manager in Point Lisas with my boys, and up and down, because with dealing with human resources, a lot of people don't understand the power that they have and the teamwork that is supposed to be with a team, a company. So my job, not just dealing with policies and procedures, but also to empower the guys to see what they can do to, better tuition reimbursement for courses that they might do, to be better people, because you have better workers, you have better team. So HR was my life, more or less.
And then the accident occurred on September 30th, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that day?
I remember the morning of it. A friend of mine was having a party at Privé, and we had gone down to South, me and a friend of mine, Nurse Ali. And coming back, we thought, since it was such a far distance, we would wait until it was light out. We would also, try to keep people around us who were, of course, especially with DUI and stuff like that. And we left when the sun came up, and I woke up 3 weeks later in the hospital with no legs, not being able to use my legs. And since then, it's just been learning this new body, a body that no longer responds to you, and doing the best that I can.
What is it like when you say learning your new body? You are forced to learn new things, people in your life.
Everything. I mean, you go from, on a morning, you get up and you get dressed and you go. You can hop in and out. For me, I have to plan everything the night before. Clothes have to be laid out close enough, otherwise you have to get in and out of the wheelchair. Everything takes time because now my legs are here. I do everything because I'm a T4 paraplegic, so my spine was broken at this level. So from this level down, I don't have any sensation or movement. So everything, you have to plan everything. Everything takes more time. Even cooking, that would take half an hour, takes 4 to 5 hours to do anything now. So, I mean, it's more challenging, but at the same time, you do see how much, once you have the willpower to do it, how much you can still do and how much I do still do.
Your life was as a professional, working in an HR department. In 7 months after, in June 2008, you inquired about the NI 38.
It's called the invalidity benefit from the NIB, and while I was in the hospital, I was in Mount Hope for 7 months. While I was in the hospital, a friend of mine was here on vacation, and she had heard from her friend, the NI 38, and she was the one who did all the runaround for me to get all the application forms, and I filled everything out, and I submitted it back to them. And payments started December of 2008.
How much was the payment?
At that point, it was $1,078.05 per month. Now, remember, I'm now home from the hospital. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to, anything at all. So we had employed a nurse, and the cheapest nurse that I could find, a home health care professional, if you want to say, was at $600 a week. Her name was Diane Mitchell, a fabulous lady who pushed me to do more with myself. But at the same time, $1,078.05 to have to pay a nurse $600 a week. I also wear adult briefs, $700 a month. Additional food, all of these things. How is our population, who most times are unemployed through no fault of their own, who do not qualify for insurance benefits, all of these things? What happens if I had children? What happens if I had rent to pay? Does no one think that we are already in a situation that is difficult for us in one way or another, whether mobility-wise, whether additional medications, and this is what you now have to fight to get money to help you survive in many cases. Not thrive, survive alone. And to have problems that I've been having all the years of submitting paperwork, of getting, having to call and call because nobody calls you. You have to call and find out what's up with my paperwork, what's up with my paperwork. To hear, oh, that paperwork that you submitted, now it's old, so you have to resubmit it to us again. It's old because of what?
In June of 2012, the money stopped.
June 2013.
Stipend of $1,078.
At that point, due to, I guess, with budget, it had increased to $1,392.45. But at the same time, I mean, $1,300, you still have, I've already described some of the bills that I had. And it stopped when I called and I called and I called, and I finally got, after about 3 months of calling, I finally got a person who answered the phone, and I explained to her how long I'd been calling. And she said, well, let me look at your file. She says, your file, it states on the file that when we sent it to the doctor to verify who you were and your level of injury, he said that you should be fine in 5 years.
What did that mean, fine how?
5 years, unless we came up with some sort of crystal ball, 1, and 2, cure for spinal cord injury. I think he was a little mistaken. He was a new doctor at the time, transferring across to Mount Hope, and perhaps he was overworked. I don't know, I'm not in his shoes to say. But to jeopardize somebody's life by putting an arbitrary figure that you have no way of proving on that form, when all of my other forms say my injury is permanent paraplegia because my spine was broken, my neck was broken, my collarbone was broken. Everything else says permanent paraplegia, so why would you put that benefits should stop after 5 years?
Did they explain that to you? Why would they put the benefits?
As the NIB, once they got that back from the doctor, they just took that as fact, and June, all money stopped. No calls, no anything, it stopped. So as a result, in 2009, after a couple of months of me getting the N138, another friend of mine told me that the Ministry of Social Development, under the Ministry of Social Welfare, the Division of Social Welfare, they had something called a disability grant.
Right.
And I said, well, I think I do qualify. So I got the paperwork. Well, it took me a long time to even get the paperwork because I don't know why. It's paperwork for an application. I was denied it, and I finally got...
Denied it on what basis?
In terms of, I would call and ask, or a social worker say, well, I have to come and bring it for you. Nobody would ever appear. And then I finally got a friend of mine to get the paperwork for me. I filled it out, I submitted it. No, this was 2009. I submitted it originally, and they told me on their law books, it says, if you make more than $1,000 a month, you cannot get any money from the Ministry of Social Welfare. I said, $1,000, my nurse is $600 a week. $1,000 is not helping me. They said, well, we can't do anything about it. I said, you're gonna deny me this coverage because of $78 at that point. Remember, it was $1078.05. You're gonna deny me coverage for $78.05. And they said, yes, that's what's written on the books. I said, well, what can you do? So I survived on the NIB, and then when the NIB money stopped, after me fighting with them for about 8 months, 9 months to try and get it reinstated, and it wasn't getting reinstated because they said I had to go to Mount Hope, and Mount Hope said I couldn't get into the clinic.
Why couldn't you get into the clinic?
when I called NIB and I tried to ask them those 3 applications I sent, why was I, what happened? They said, no, we didn't tell you at that point, but you have to get a doctor from Mount Hope to sign off because that's who originally sent it to us. I said, okay, fine. I called Mount Hope and I asked them the situation. I told them a situation. I said, my paperwork has to be filled out. They said, well, you would have to get that paperwork filled out by the neurosurgery department, the clinic. And the waiting list for that is 3 years long. I said,
they
3 years.
It would take 3 years to get
3
an
years to
appointment?
get even into the clinic itself. And because I wasn't a critical patient, gunshot wound, recently injured, the odds of me actually getting into the clinic are slim to none. I probably wouldn't get in. I said, what? It's just paperwork I need to get filled out. When I heard that, I was like, well, if the Ministry of Social Welfare before said I couldn't get in because I was getting over $1,000, I'm getting 0 now for the last 9 months. Let's try with them. And so I started with them to try and get the disability grant. And 3 years later, I'm still here.
3 years you're waiting on approval for a disability grant?
After sending in 3 sets of different paperwork, after calling every time and finding out what's going on. Oh, the NIB form to prove that I'm not getting any money from NIB. The NIB form has to be more recent. I said, fine, I'll come and get another form. And I would come back to them, get another form, roll into NIB. They would see me, and because they see me so often, they're like, oh, you have to get this form signed again? Yes. Sign the form, drop it in an envelope written Miss Gibbs, which was the social worker I was dealing with for the area. And every time, all my application forms, all my NIB paperwork, kept dropping it in. Miss Gibbs, please hand deliver to Miss Gibbs. Miss Gibbs, this. And last week Friday, because my name has been now passed around and a lot of people are hearing the difficulty I've been having, a gentleman called Mr. Wendell Jones was trying on my behalf to try and find my paperwork to see what is the problem. He has gone to 3 different offices, Port of Spain, all over Port of Spain, all over Tunapuna, hoping to find my paperwork, and it's gone.
What is your financial status now?
I have 4 bank accounts. If you look at those 4 bank accounts, you probably might get just over $500.
How are you surviving?
Luckily, through the generosity of my neighbors, of friends, family, people calling to say, I'm at the grocery, do you need anything? I mean, at that point, when you are in a situation as that, you prioritize a lot of what you really and truly need. Thank God, because of previous television, or not really television, newspaper articles, an organization called WAND with Princess Penny Elias and Gloria Nelson. They have helped me because they heard about my situation. They came and they said, if there was one thing we could do to help you, what would it be? What's your biggest expense? I said $700 for adult briefs, So, I mean, thank God for them. I've kept a dry bum. And I do thank them every day.
How common is your case? Or stories like this?
Unfortunately, I have heard so many people with the same situation, and you already are having hardships in life, whether your family doesn't, because we don't have such an awareness of our disabled population in Trinidad. A lot of disabled people, because of culture, because of the television, because of everything, a lot of things, tell you that you're not good enough, you're less than.
Do you feel like you're less than?
I don't feel at all that I'm less than, and I attribute that to the fact that I was fortunate enough to have gone away to college at Florida International University in Miami.
Have you tried gaining a job anywhere?
I have tried many times, and they see the resume and they go, oh, you'd be perfect for the position, from my experience, from other recommendations. And the second I say, I'm in a wheelchair, are you wheelchair accessible, or is it available telecommuting? Because many of my clients before the accident, I would just send them paperwork, they send me stuff over the internet, and we do all our stuff. And coming into the office was never an issue, even though I was always there. But the second that people hear wheelchair, you hear crickets and tumbleweeds turning, because suddenly it's, we'll call you back. And that call never happens. It never does. So, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I saw it at college, I saw professors, I saw students getting in and out of cars, living life independently, I knew it was possible. I knew there were so many more things I could do. I taught myself so many things by watching YouTube videos of other paraplegic people and people whose injuries are a lot worse than mine, doing amazing things. And people need to understand that it's here. It's not here because once you have the willpower to do anything, you can do anything.
You are fighting to be treated as a decent human being in the country, a right for equality. Your closing comments to Trinidad and Tobago, qualified but disqualified.
We are here and we are a part of your community that you should not be discounting. We have something to offer, as everyone. We all have a light inside of us and we're all amazing and wonderfully made. And believe in yourself and believe that you can make a difference. Help someone else. We are all dealing with our own struggles. Mine are not any greater than yours. We are all struggling, and if we would just help and support one another. Social welfare, your job is to help, and you are hurting more than helping. Please, straighten up, because we need all the help we can get.
This morning, Kerensa agreed to do this interview to highlight the loopholes and the gaps in our system, understanding that the disabled population, they're not a burden on our society, that society must step up to the challenge and ensure that each citizen has an equal right to not only access services, but an equal right to be treated in a decent and fair manner, and the opportunities must be accessible to all. We take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. Stay with us.